Hi everybody. Oh man, hello. It's it's February 21st right now. It's really beautiful out. Not just here in the old Stellarium. afternoon. But actually, where I live right now, I mean, it's not as green as this, but it's pretty nice here as well. And I hope you're doing great wherever you're watching this. If you're watching this live, awesome. If you're watching this recorded later, awesome. I appreciate viewers. It's nice. I haven't. Oh, my watch is telling me to water plants. I've already watered the plants. I have had to take a little bit of time off. Normally I would have done this like last week or the week before, but my life has been pretty busy, and I'm happy to say that I have an afternoon where I can do this, and I'm really excited to talk today about the February night sky and continue our training in stargazing. And then also I thought we'd just, pretty chill, just look at the Milky Way itself. Something that I think is like a real a desire to see by a lot of people. I've been really lucky to be with people who've seen the Milky Way for the first time with me, and I think that's really a real treat, real special. And I hope that to give you that opportunity yourself, or at least inspire you to go out and look at the real version. I should take this off. I don't need this. I can't hear you. Don't know why I had it in my ear in the first place. As usual, if you are watching live and have questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat. I've got the chat. This side needs a little. I should do this. There we go. Oops, now we have a problem on the other side. How about that? Huh? We're good. I am really having trouble with my green screen. I need a haircut also is what I'm noticing right now. Really badly need a haircut. Because we're going on like month 11 of our pandemic, and haircuts are a little less frequent nowadays. But yeah, go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'm reading the chat. I can answer questions and stuff. But otherwise, let's get started with the way we've been started every single time with this series as a practice, as a way we're practicing this, which is, okay, let's imagine that we now know after many, many months of this, which way north, south, east, west is. And that's always the thing that I try to understand first when I go to a new site to look at the stars, which is north, which is south, which way is east, which way is west. And the way that I generally do it is if I'm going out at night, and I've said this in most of my videos, but we're going to do it again just to get as practice. If I go outside to do stargazing with people or by myself, I'm going to pay attention to where the sun has set. So if we're looking here at, and this is, again, Tucson, which is where I live, and, this is like late afternoon, early afternoon, mid-afternoon, and so I'm seeing that the sun's over in this direction. I assume that the sun, if it's mid-afternoon, that doesn't mean the sun is going to be going left this direction. It's probably going this direction. So I have some idea that west is kind of over in this direction, and sure enough, the W is down here. And I know it's winter, so the way the sun is going to set is not directly in the west, but a little bit to the left of it, a little bit to the south of it. If it were the summer, it would set a little bit to the north of it. If we're on the equinoxes, it sets generally around then, but essentially here, knowing that, I can let time go on and kind of figure out which way west is. So as time goes on, and so it's hard to see, but down here at the very bottom, you can see what time is set here. 4 o'clock, and we're getting to 5 o'clock. And then 6 o'clock will be right when the sun sets, but I can put it at 6 o'clock. So 6:30. Almost 7 o'clock here. So 7 o'clock, the sun is set, the stars have come out. You can see some faint glow on the horizon, and you know that way's west. And so if you know which way's west, you know all the other directions. Because if you're looking west, behind you is going to be east, to your right is going to be north, and to your left is going to be south, right? And the way that I remember it again is north, east, southwest, or never eat shredded wheat, or never eat soggy waffles, because shredded wheat's not so bad. But once we know that, then the sky is is open up for us, because now we're starting to recognize, okay, if we're in the northern hemisphere, and we've talked about this every month when we've done this, but if we're in the northern hemisphere, there are certain stars that we're going to see generally all year round, and so we should look for those stars to kind of help guide ourselves. And we've been trying to train, hopefully, by looking out at the night sky, we're trying to train our memories to understand and remember these types of stars. So looking in the north, which is where we want to start, we want to start by looking for maybe the Big Dipper or the Little Dipper. And in fact, can you see the Big Dipper here? I can see the Big Dipper pretty well. It's right here. Here's the bucket of the dipper and the handle. At this time of night, right after sunset, at this time of year, if we wait and let time go on a little bit, so we go to like 8 o'clock. So here's 8 o'clock where I live. You can see almost all the Big Dipper. Early on, the Dipper was down here. The Earth hadn't rotated, so we could see it as well. And once we find these two stars, Doobie and Merak, and the Big Dipper, which are in the bucket, right? So you can see the handle, and you can see the bucket right here. You can use these two stars right here to point towards the North Star. And look, North Star, north, that's our other way of figuring out exactly where north is. And so generally, you can kind of figure out roughly which way is west by turning 90 degrees and looking for the North Star, by looking for the Big Dipper. Sometime in the year, the Big Dipper is not going to be visible because at the time of night, it'll be below the horizon, depending on where you are, especially the farther south you are, towards the equator. But you can also recognize that if you can't see the Big Dipper, you generally can see over here this W, which is Cassiopeia, also bright. And these stars, it's a little harder to see exactly where the North Star is, but you know that the W opens up on it, and it's one of the brighter stars there. And by searching around and hunting around, and again, you've got to go out and practice this. It's just like any skill. You go out and practice and learn these things. But if you know Cassiopeia, the Big Dipper, and Little Dipper, you know 3 pretty important things right off the bat. And so hopefully if you've learned anything from our time, it's those objects, right? The Little Dipper curves around this way. You can see the bucket right here, the guardians of the pole, and Polaris, the North Star, right there. Remember, we call it the North Star because the North Pole points to that star. So if we were up at the Northern Hemisphere, the North Pole, and standing there, we'd look straight above us, and the North Star would be right above us. It'd be very easy if you lived at the North Pole to find the North Star. Very, very easy. Just look for the pole, and it points to it all the time. But down here in, the Southwest where I live, it's not as, high up in the sky. And in fact, the distance in degrees between here and the horizon, that's essentially our latitude away from the equator. Right? So imagine if this were up at the North Pole, it'd be right straight above us. That'd be 90 degrees from the horizon. You're at 90 degrees north, the North Pole. And so that's a pretty quick way if you are, by the way, lost in a desert island in the Northern Hemisphere or, trying to find what your latitude is. That's a good way. Longitude, which is where you are around the planet from Greenwich in London, not London, from Greenwich in UK, that angle, that's a little harder and you need like a watch. And so, but we can talk about that in the future. But for right now, this is the North Star, and we have Cassiopeia over here, this W, Cassiopeia the Queen, which is pretty nice. We could also, because it's winter, turn and look towards the south and see some of the most important set of constellations in the winter, which are, pretty high up and in the south. And you can see almost at zenith right here, which is right here, but down here at zenith is the moon, right? And so the moon is pretty helpful in terms of finding what, objects, because looking for the moon right now, the moon is almost right in the middle of our cool winter hexagons. Let's see if I can put the whole winter hexagon on the screen at the same time. It's a little hard, but there we are. All right. So this winter hexagon, boom, 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 is your pretty classic winter constellations to look at. And I would 100%, hi, Kevin Nguyen. Welcome for the first time. If you look towards the south and look straight up, you'll see these groups of stars. We talked about this last time because we talked about the naming of the constellations, but just this is a really good time to practice and also to show off. Take someone else out when you're stargazing and look for these. I lived in a very bright city, Los Angeles, and I could still see a lot of these things. You can definitely see the moon even in Los Angeles and in bright cities. As long as you're not living in a city that is like underground or in a, like New York, it's a little hard because you have to get up on a building or away from like downtown. If you live in downtown Manhattan, it's a little tough. There's a lot of buildings in the way. But if you live anywhere where you can just get out, please, if it's clear out tonight and it's not incredibly cold, just go out and take a look. It's good to practice. You can see Orion here. So remember, here's her head, her shoulders, belt, her legs come down here. She's holding the shield and she's got a club. The club is essentially lit right now by the moon, which is kind of charming. She's looking at the Taurus, the bull. You see the V of Taurus's face and the horns come up this way. The back comes down this way. And you can see something else right here. Can everybody see this? Kind of reddish. Can you guess what that is? Pretty straightforward what that is. We all know, and especially this week, that's Mars. That's the planet Mars. So if I click on it, you can see Mars. And what's amazing about Mars right now is that, and hopefully you paid attention, hopefully this is just not news to you for the first time, but this week, as of the recording right now, we landed another rover safely on Mars at a crater called JWST crater. And I can show you that a little bit later when I move over to the space engine portion of it, because it's kind of charming. But JWST crater, we think, used to be an ancient lake a long time ago, and we sent the rover there, this robot, maybe the size of a small SUV, to land and do soil samples and send a little drone up to take pictures of the crater and hopefully look for evidence of ancient water and maybe even ancient life, which would be pretty incredible. But what's amazing right now is you can go outside in your backyard tonight and go and just see Mars yourself. And think about the fact that Mars is a planet entirely inhabited by robots right now. I think that's pretty charming. And it's also good because it's in a pretty good part of the sky. You could see Orion looking at Mars right now, gazing at Mars, right? The other parts of the winter hexagon, Rigel down here, Orion's kind of leg. And then over here, you have Sirius, the dog star. And Sirius is the front leg of the dog. The back leg comes down here. You can see the dog's little tail. The dog's head comes up this way. It actually does look like a dog. The problem from where I live is even though it's pretty dark and the city that I live in tries really hard to make sure lights point down based on city ordinances, I can only really see the front leg and maybe the back leg. It's hard to see the head at all. And so maybe some places that you live, it might be something a little harder to see some of the very faint stars, which is why it's fun to do this. And that might be a good reason to, mask up and take a friend and go outside of your city. Just go on a drive for an evening. Like, I think it's a really cheap thing to do, providing you've got a car and you can get outside of the city. And it's not, again, too cold right now. Getting out, even bundling up and getting out, just to go and let your eyes adjust and see this, it's like really worth it. And it's a wonderful, wonderful gift you can give yourself. And it's also a cheap date. At the end of my first date with my wife, we went out driving outside of the city and looked at the stars, and it was really wonderful. Moving up here, you can see Procyon. Procyon is part of the little dog. Procyon, here's the head of the little dog and the back. Procyon, as we talked about, means before the dog because rises before the dog star here. Continue to move up, you have Castor and Pollux. Castor and Pollux are the twin stars of Gemini, and their bodies, you can see like a leg, and like the legs come down this way, and they've like got their arms out. Like imagine two twin boys being like, yay, right next to each other, right? You can kind of just barely see them, right? Head, arms, like in one long line, and then the legs come down. You've got to have a lot of good imagination to do stargazing and to see some of the, whoop, I did gimbal lock there, which is why we suddenly had a crazy thing. I'm gonna have to move over so that we're looking here now towards the west, which is, gonna make Orion look like this. But the final star in the winter hexagon, besides Aldebaran, the Eye of Taurus, is all the way up here. This is Auriga, or Capella in Auriga, the charioteer, Auriga. And so it's a pretty bright star. As you can see, its distance is 42 light years, right? So if we look at all the stars here, which is the farthest? Well, this star here, this distance is 66 light years, so a little bit farther. Rigel here, this distance is 862 light years, so that takes the cake right now. Sirius is only 8 light years, so it's the brightest star in the sky because it happens to be pretty close. Here we got 11 light years for Procyon. Pollux is 33 light years. Castor is 51 light years. And then, as I said up here, 42 light years for Capella. But Rigel here, 862 light years. Compared to Betelgeuse, which is 497 light years, it's pretty far. And so, think about that. I was just watching a movie last night called Nomadland, starring Frances McDormand, that I really recommended, directed by Chloe Zhao, who's an incredibly gifted director. As part of that movie, they do some stargazing, and they talk about stars and the distances to the stars. And, it's kind of amazing to think about 800 years ago, the light leaving Rigel, and you go outside and look at it now and finally getting that light. I've always loved that. But that's not all. So these are some pretty good, it's a pretty good time for pretty obvious constellations that you should hopefully learn. Like, I don't expect you to get the charioteer. I didn't even show the charioteer. It's like a gross, like if I put on my constellation lines here, you can see that it's just essentially this, little hexagon thing. You can also see the twins pretty well. If I put the art on, you can see that someone has done a really good job with this art here, and it's not, like, what the heck is the charioteer holding? What's this little goat thing? But, so I don't expect that, but I do expect that you should be able to see all of the winter hexagon. The stars are pretty bright. It looks like a hexagon or a rupee if you play a lot of Zelda. Orion's a pretty classic one, and just finding Sirius and knowing, the belt of Orion points to Sirius, that's pretty helpful. These are the ways that you develop an understanding of stargazing, is getting out to a spot, maybe getting a chair that you can sit down and then look up, maybe, doing the, teen Dawson's Creek thing and just sitting on the hood of your car, like with your body on the windshield and your legs on the hood. Like, that's a pretty nice, relaxing way to look up. It's cold. Get some blankets. Put a blanket down, put a blanket over top of you, and just sit and look up. Bring a pillow. It's a really wonderful way to sit, especially if you can get off the side of the road, away from, roads, and just look up. And if you point your car right now, I'd recommend pointing your car so the hood is, and you're pointing it south so you can see all of these things, because you can see you're going to have to look up starting from the south. But there's lots of other constellations. I should turn off these things right here. There's lots of other constellations, and we should look and see, as we do every week or every month, can we find some new interesting constellations to help build our constellation knowledge? And so to do that, let's turn on the sky map. So again, I've gone to skymaps.com. I've downloaded this month's sky map. You can see here, and I'm going to fly around. that it says February 2021, and it's late February, 7 p.m. So this is a little bit earlier than what Stellarium's showing, but like, you know, it's close enough that you can do pretty well. So we're looking north here, and you can see that you've got the Little Dipper, you've got the Big Dipper, exactly as we thought, but even looking south right here, you can see, aha, look, Orion, the Bull, Taurus, Auriga with Capella, right? Exactly what I've just been showing you. Over here, some stuff from the last couple months. This Great Square of Pegasus should be in the west. Let's see if we can find the Great Square of Pegasus right now. So I'm going to turn off my sky map. And we're going to look towards the west. So if we're looking north now, remember the west is to the left. And if we look to the left, we see that it's a little hard to see because a lot of it's set right now. But I think that the Great Square of Pegasus, if I turn on my constellation lines, yeah, unfortunately it is below the horizon. It's these stars right here. If we were to go back in time a little bit, and again, if the sky's ever doing this, it's the apocalypse, you should be screaming. But this right here is the start of the Great Square of Pegasus. It goes behind this tree. You can see right there. There's the Great Square of Pegasus. So, as I said, 7 o'clock, which is essentially right now, that's when you can see it. But you may be a little bit later, it's off by a little bit in that it's some of the things that are on the horizon are a little harder to see. If we turn our sky map back on, that gives us an idea that, oh, okay, that means this whole thing has been shifted a little bit to the right, and you're seeing new stuff on the left. I want to point out, by the way, this area of the sky doesn't have a lot to it. There's not a lot of constellations here, right? Isn't that interesting? Some constellations are pretty dense with, some parts of the sky are pretty dense with constellations, and some are not as dense with constellations right here. This is a really good time of the year to like just sit and look at one region and see a lot of stars. But let's see if we can see this right here, because it should be visible, and that'll be our big thing this month, which is, let's see if we can see Leo. I love Leo. I think Leo's a really good constellation. So when we're looking west, let's turn and look east, 180 degrees. And here we go. So if we turn our sky map back on, well, I've just turned the thing. If we look at our sky map really quickly, we can see that what we're looking for is essentially a thing that looks like a sickle, which is this thing right here. It looks like a sickle, and it should kind of point towards the horizon-ish. It's not exactly, if we're looking directly east, it should be kind of tilted a little bit to the left, okay? And the way that I do that is once again, let's oh gosh, if we do this, if we rotate our, I want to do 90 degrees counterclockwise, yes. And so you can see here, this would be looking east, right? Because that's when you hold a sky map, you hold it so the direction you're looking is the bottom of it. And then yes, I'm gonna look for it to kind of be like a sickle that's like a little bit tilted. Okay. So let's turn my sky map off. And then we're looking west. Can you see that sickle that's a little bit tilted? I'll give you a chance to look at it yourself. I can definitely see it. Can you see it? It's not here. It's not over here. It's maybe right here. Can you see that? And that is the head of Leo the lion. Leo's got this, the head's actually up here, but this is like the mane and the front leg, the back leg, and the tail. Can you see that? Here, if I turn on my constellation lines, you can see, I guess it looks like a dustbuster in this stupid constellation line right here. If I turn the art on, you can see, rah, 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 rah. But like, if I go and change my star lore to H.A. Ray's star lore and put the line on, you can really see it looks like a lion there, right? Same stars, different way to connect the dots, and you can see the mane, the head, the legs, the back legs. It's a great constellation. I really encourage you. This is an awesome time to go outside at night. Great southern constellations. And if you look towards the east, one of the great constellations, this star right here is called Regulus. Regulus is Alpha Leo, the brightest star in Leo the lion, and it's 79 light years away. Pretty bright star. Okay. This constellation and these, have been like seen since antiquity. It's like really associated with kings since antiquity. There's a double star here. If I zoom in, you can see it's actually 2 stars right there, but it looks like 1 star generally from the Earth, from us. If you have really good eyes, you can see the 2. The other way is if you're looking for the Big Dipper, notice the Big Dipper, if you trace this way, Dubi and Merak towards the North Star, if you go the other direction, look, you just get right to Leo. These 2 stars essentially point right towards Regulus almost, or the double star at least. Maybe they point right over, I don't know, here-ish, but close enough to Leo that you can just keep tracing. And this is how you do it. It seems silly, but looking for constellations mostly means just playing things and then tracing lines between them to try and find them, right? And so you know that you're going to look at these stars, go the other direction, and if you've gone too far, you might get to this and be like, well, what's this? This right here is Alpha, which is Alpha Hydra. Hydra, you probably saw it in here, is this snake. You can make a snake out of almost any stars, right? Just tracing a line with the head over here. So that's why I don't talk about Hydra very much. And if you keep going, you take this little sickle, this backwards question mark, I guess, and you keep going, you get all the way over to the dog constellation, Canis Major, right? Isn't that cool? So the other thing I want to point out, and it's a little hard to see right now because the moon's in the way. So this may not be the best time of year to do this, but you know, if we zoom in on the moon, you can see the moon is, gosh, what is it? Does it say what its current phase is? I haven't been paying much attention to what its current phase is. I guess I should probably know, because it's going to be going around the Earth this direction, so it's probably going to be getting more and more. So I guess it's waxing gibbous. Let's see. Today's moon phase. Yeah, waxing gibbous. Nice job, Kevin. The way that I did that was that I know that the moon is essentially always going to be going left. That's the direction it goes around the Earth. So tomorrow night it'll be over here, and then tomorrow night it'll be over here, and tomorrow night it'll be over here. And so essentially, and you can watch, we can do that. Let's do that fun thing. I can do this, and then I can go, boop, look, it's over there. Boom, it's over there, right? And notice as I did that, boom, boom. If I zoom out a little bit, it's a little hard because I want to show you the phase. As I do that, boom, boom. Oh man, is my sky map in the way? No, it's not. Good. It's getting bigger. And that's the thing is that I thought in my head when I did this, that what I want is I want to think if it goes over here and the sun is going to be over to the right because that's what's lighting it up, as it gets over on this side of the Earth, the sun in the same position will be lighting up more of it from our perspective. And so it is gibbous because it's kind of fat like this. It's not a little crescent. Gibbous is the opposite of crescent. And it's waxing because tomorrow night it'll be more and more and more until it's a full moon. Right? So the next week or so, probably not the greatest to go out and look for the Milky Way, but you'll get there in the next couple weeks, you know, so in 2 weeks you should go out and by like the time that it starts to get, you know, full after that, you know, it will rise later and later in the night because it'll be farther down at the same time of night. And it's really the right time to go look for the Milky Way is when it is not, when it's not a full moon and, you know, when it's completely dark out. But let's imagine that we did that. Let's go forward a couple weeks. So, bump, 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 bump. And where's our moon? Has our moon set? All right, so now right now we're at 3/2, March 1st, and it's also 8 o'clock p.m. Pretty nice. Moon hasn't risen yet. And so now you can start to see, stretching across, this band right here. See the band that stretches across the sky? It's a little hard to see in the app, I have to say. And if we turn on our sky map, you can see it. Here, let's rotate the sky map. Again. Boop. Back. This blue patch there. This is the Milky Way. The Milky Way is what I want to talk to you about for the rest of the episode. And it's a little hard to see in this. I could crank up the brightness, but I'm not going to do it here. But the Milky Way stretches across the sky. Now, the thing is, it's not always going to stretch from southeast all the way over to northwest. It's not going to do that all the time. Some months it's a little low on the horizon. Some months it's not. But right now is a good time to look at it because like it really does stretch right up and across. And it's right next to some really bright constellations. So you can essentially have guideposts. You can say, if I'm looking for the Milky Way, I'm going to look between Sirius here, right? Remember, we have Orion. We find Orion in the south, and we point these stars to Sirius. And then up directly above Orion, we have, this is one of the bright stars in Taurus the Bull, but even farther up is Capella. And so that right there, essentially, in that is our Milky Way. So what's the Milky Way? Well, let's switch over to something else. Let's switch over to space engine. So I've turned on let's actually stop this because now we're in February 22nd. Let's put this right here. I've turned on the brightness really, really high here. But like if we go, like float over here, and then let's let the sun go by again. So let's let time go by quite a bit. Oof. I'm confused. Oh, is the Earth just rotating around below us? Yeah, there we go. So now we're in the nighttime, and so we can just essentially kind of land. Once again, let's land, not in a bright patch, but like let's land there. So I'll click land. Uh-oh, that was not what I wanted to do. That was not what I wanted to do. Uh-oh. I was flying away from the Earth because I accidentally clicked on something else. All right, so let's do the thing I wanted to do this time. There we go. Whoops. Floating through the universe, not exactly what I wanted to do. Let's land on the Earth now. Here. Some remote area All right. And so now we're looking up again at the night sky, similar to what we were doing before. Let's turn off all of this labeling because we don't need that. So let's see if we can find, it's a little hard to see exactly where we're looking because once again, but there's our Big Dipper again. And let's turn up the brightness. Let's make it so it's a little easier to see. There's the Big Dipper again. So if we look over to the right, can we see, Leo the Lion is rising? This must be earlier in the night than I was showing with Stellarium. And if we look over towards the south now, you can start to see, there's Orion. And if we look up, there's, what is this? Have I turned off? That's Capella. Where's our moon? Are we not on the right time? 2:23. That's why we need to go sets to now. This is gonna set to now, and it's gonna go too far in. So whoop, too bright. Let's set it to. Let's accelerate time again. I want to set it to the right date, or else the moon won't be in the right spot. Here we go. Look at this. There we go. So now there's the moon. And we've got it bright enough here that we can essentially do that and look up. And so now the thing is as I said, let's really crank up the brightness and let's look for the Milky Way. And so you can see the Milky Way stretching above and across the sky. There it is. We've really cranked up the brightness here. So this is like, in the desert here. Like this is a place where we've gotten really far from the city. So if you really want to see the Milky Way, you really can't see it from any city. I can't see it from where I live. To see the Milky Way, you got to go out. It's never going to look like this. This is like, generally what it's going to look like, if we put our exposure back, is like this at the best. This kind of faint, hazy band. People think that because there are photographs, like the one that I used to advertise this, because that you can get Milky Way looking like this. But to take a picture like this, you have to have a camera that you really open up the shutter for a long period of time. And generally our eyes don't work as well. So I can turn up the brightness here, but look at how many stars you'd be able to see in that case. So what are we seeing here? What we're seeing here is we're seeing our own galaxy. And our own galaxy is enormous. And essentially what we're seeing with all these stars is these stars are not just outside of our galaxy on each side of it. We're in a region of our galaxy. Let me drink some water. We're in a region of our galaxy and we're seeing all the stars that are part of our galaxy. And then in the distance, you're seeing the buildup of 100 billion stars also in our galaxy. And so this right here is the band that stretches across. That's the disk of our galaxy seen from the inside. Other cultures around the world had other different names for this, the Milky Way. The Silver Path, a lot of, in China, that's what they called it. And, there's Heaven's Path. There's the, people have called it a river in the sky. There's lots of different ways. The way the bird went, the way, the bird's path. The Milky Way was called that because it looked Via Lactea, because it looked like faint haze of milk stretching across the sky, the Milky Way. But from this really blown out, bright perspective, you can see that it's not just white like milk. It's got these dark patches here. And these dark patches are dust. Our Milky Way is composed of about 100 to 400 billion stars. You're seeing some of them around us in this. And essentially a bunch of gas and dust, like the gas and dust that made the stars that we're from, and the gas and dust that's in the Orion Nebula. So if I were to look back towards the south, let's find the south again and see if I can find there. There's a patch of gas and dust that takes up this part of Orion, and that is the Orion Nebula. Let's float away from the Earth now, because we can do that, and get off into space. Ooh. And as we get away from the atmosphere, you can really see the Milky Way now, right? And you can see that some areas are not as bright with dust and gas as others. Look at this. Look at this. This would be if you had incredibly, incredibly good vision, or you took a long picture. In fact, here, let me show you what it actually looks like. If I turn on the internet here. Boom. This is an actual photograph of the Milky Way. Pretty incredible, right? And we can even do better. This is a version from Gaia, right here. Guy has a telescope that like took pictures of let's shrink this down. Took images of like a satellite that like mapped the positions of stars, and you can see essentially all of the gas and dust and all of the white that you're seeing here is stars. It's the added light of hundreds of billions of stars. And like I can zoom in and we can see. The first person to really notice that the Milky Way was composed of stars were the first people with telescopes like Galileo. So if I zoom in, look at this. Can you see that it seems granular? It's granular. It might be really hard to see if I zoom in. Like it's granular because these are the stars. These are little individual stars adding up, right? It looks like haze, but it's actually individual stars. I think that's pretty incredible. I think that's pretty ding dang dong incredible. To like be able to see all of these different stars. If you zoom out, you can still see it's like granular. And part of that granularity is just the, is imaging. But like with Gaia here, it's mapping all of these stars. And then in between it, dust lanes and gas lanes and stuff. And that's our Milky Way. That's what our Milky Way is. With this program here, we can fly away from the Earth and the sun. There goes the sun. And see our own neighborhood of stars receding in the distance. And see the dust and gas, large filaments, huge filaments of dust and gas as we slowly fly out of the Milky Way. So let's do this because it's too bright. And so this is the Milky Way. And we were just looking at a tiny, tiny, tiny insignificant chunk of it. So if we float up a little bit, you can see the Milky Way from far away. And we'll crank up the brightness again. This is what we're seeing, but we're seeing it not from the top like this. We're actually seeing it from the edge. And so if I look over here, you're seeing an edge on view. But we're not seeing it outside, we're seeing it from inside of it, right? So like all the dots you're seeing here are different galaxies outside of our galaxy. That's what these are. But inside of our galaxy, you're seeing the stars now. Now you see all these dots? These are stars inside of our galaxy. Notice the dots you're seeing now, a lot less frequent, and all of them are galaxies. Every one of these is a galaxy. But inside of our galaxy, as we get closer, these are stars that are from our galaxy as we're slowly flying into our galaxy. So this right here would be what the Milky Way would look like at a different part of the galaxy entirely. If you were on a planet, we can do that. Let's do that. Let's click on a star. I don't know, this guy. Let's go there. And now let's look at its star system. And here's some planets. What do we got? What do we got? What are you? You are cool arid Aquaria. What are you? Cool lacustrine Aquaria. What are you? Temperate Jupiter. What are you? Warm arid Subterra. Let's go there. So here's our warm arid Subterra. It's got some aurora. And let's land on this warm arid Subterra right here. So now we're on another planet. Looking out. And that is the Milky Way from this other planet. Similar, a band that stretches across the sky. Pretty incredible, right? Must be another planet here. Yeah, there's another planet that you can see from this with another moon. A dwarf moon. All from this planet we were just on, right there. Isn't that amazing? So the Milky Way, is this another dwarf moon? Yeah, it's another dwarf moon of the planet. I don't even know where the planet was that we were on. This may be the planet we were supposed to be on. I think this is the planet. This is the planet we were supposed to be on right there. But instead we landed on a dwarf moon. We must have. You can see a volcano right there. That's what the Milky Way looks like from another entire planet. So similar. Gas, dust, a lot of stars. You know, probably if you're on this planet, it's not dark enough to see this. You probably have to turn it back to this. You know, but still pretty impressive, right? So if you go home, you can see how things change, but we're still, the galaxy's so big, it's 100,000 light years across, that we are, like, you know, some things don't change a huge amount. So here's the Earth again. And once again, we have the sun and the Milky Way. Now, there's parts of it that are brighter and parts that are fainter. The parts over here are pretty faint. And that's because we're actually not near the center of the Milky Way, right? So like, let's let's do this. Let's rotate ourselves. Notice also that the plane of the Milky Way does not care about the plane of the Earth. That's Antarctica right there, right? There's Australia, right? The North Pole is way over here. And the plane of the Milky Way, as you can see, is stretching around like this. So I'm going to be horizontal with the Milky Way. Now I'm rotating with the Milky Way. All right, okay, so the Milky Way is rotating this way. And look at how wonky the Earth is tilted over. The Earth does not care about the Milky Way on the whole. But with this in mind, let's do this. We're going to fly up. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. What am I doing? Did I click the wrong button? Click to center? Click track object, didn't I? Fly upward. Flying away from the Earth. And look, if I turn the brightness up, the Earth is down there. That's the center of the Milky Way, right? We're over near an edge. We're not even in the center. And if we fly to the center of the Milky Way, hopefully I don't have, good. Fly to the center of the Milky Way, you see that it's so bright because this is where the stars are most dense. There's so many stars. It's so dense with stars around here. If the night sky, so if we pick a planet, like a star here, and we go there, dunk, we click on its solar system browser and looking for a planet here. Frigid Jupiter. What are you? Frigid, arid, cold, airless subaquaria. Ooh. Let's go there. We're gonna go to some planet here. Very cold. Ooh, very pretty planet. We've got some rings on it. And some aurora. This is the night sky from this planet. It's near the center of our galaxy. The Milky Way stretches around it in every direction with dust, which is pretty incredible. It's very different in that from the Earth, because we're over near the edge of this galaxy, one direction we're looking out away from the galaxy center, and it's not very bright. But here, near the center of the galaxy, it's the same all around. And there's so many more stars in the sky. Imagine trying to do, and this is not even me, like with where I turn up all the brightness and everything. Like, there's just a lot of stars. And little, clusters as well. It is just so dense with stars. Imagine trying to do your constellations mapping here. Pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. So I would really encourage you to go look for the Milky Way. You've got to drive out of the city. You got to get someplace where it's really dark, and you also have to let your eyes adjust. Don't look at anything bright. Don't look at street lights, or don't go anywhere with street lights. Go someplace away from street lights. Don't look at car headlights. Get someplace where you're pointing away from lights, and just let your eyes adjust. Let those pupils dilate until that takes about 15 minutes, until they're big enough that you can really see the stars, really appreciate the light from the stars, and take it all in. And eventually, you will see the Milky Way. So we fly away from the center of the galaxy, get back to the Earth. Also know which way you're looking. Know that right now, if you look towards the Orion here, so Orion, that's not the brightest part of the Milky Way. So again, you might have to wait a couple weeks for the moon to go away, because again, the moon right here, you can see the moon pretty bright in the sky, for the moon to not rise, so that you can start to see the other side of the Milky Way, which is a little bit brighter. This side over here. But you also might have to wait till the summer, because the summer, as the center of the galaxy, is where the summer constellation, it's in Sagittarius. The center of the galaxy is in Sagittarius, and that's a pretty amazing thing to look for. I wonder if I could see Sagittarius right now. I think it's, yeah, so it's right curving up here. This I think is Sagittarius. Yes, this is the claws, right? Are you Antares? No. Yeah, this is Sagittarius, and we're looking for yes, here's the teapot. So it's a little teapot. It's got the top right here. It's short, but it's stout. Here's the handle, and over here is the spout. And it pours right here to the center of the galaxy. So if I were to go and look for Sagittarius A star and center it, we're right in the center of this, which is pouring. That's where the center of the galaxy is. But that's a summer thing. So we'll get to that. And if you come back to my July video, for the first one that I did, you can hopefully see that. But for right now, that's the Milky Way. Okay? And as part of the thing, let's see what the Milky Way looks like from another planet. Let's go to Mars. How about we go to Mars? The thing is that man, Mars is not loading correctly. This is not what Mars looks like. Are you ready to see something amazing? I love Space Engine, but it does this thing where it's like, I don't want to load your textures very well. And there's not a button to like reload textures. So I'm going to, maybe there is and I just never use it. I don't think there is. I think that if I, yeah, let's just do this. We'll make this go away. I'll start it up again. Sorry, nothing. Now we're in the inky blackness of space. Whoops. We start it up again. I click continue, and hopefully it appears for all my viewers. Planet Mars. Ta-da! With textures! So, if we land on Mars here, or at least go around, first off, you can see that from Mars, so this is the Valles Marineris here. Let's go over to an area over here. This, by the way, is the side that Perseverance is sitting on. If we look up, you can also see the Milky Way. Let's find it. Where is it? I'm not seeing it immediately. It must be that I have to crank my brightness. So let's turn up the brightness. Boom, 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 boom. I'm not in a dark enough spot. Ah, there it is. Yes. Stretching up and across. I must not have been looking at the right area. Pretty amazing, right? This is Mars. You can see the sun. You know, if I move away down here, now we can't see the sun at all. And you can see the Milky Way still stretching up and across. The constellations are the same, by the way. If we look, you can see Orion right here, just from Mars. So if you learn your constellations here on Earth and then you travel to Mars, you can still see the same constellations. Your constellation maps don't matter because that tiny move from Earth to Mars doesn't change the, you know, distances to stars appreciably. It's not different constellations there. Same constellations, same constellations. You know, the thing that will change is the time of year because Mars rotates. Its day is 40 minutes longer than the Earth's day. So what I want to do is I want to show you where Jezero crater is. Let's see if I can do this. This is something, whoops, let's slow myself down a bit. Let's zoom in again. Let's see if I can do this. So, we're looking right now. I'm flipped over, I'm looking at the southern hemisphere. This right here is my marking on Mars. This up here is the it's part of the Valles Marineris here. And then over here, yes, you're seeing the shield volcanoes. This is Pavonis Mars, Mons, and then over here is Olympus Mons in the dark. Let's let time go by a little bit faster. So Mars is going to rotate. And we're going to see if I can find Jezero crater from Mars. So rising, because Jezero crater is on the other side right now. This is Olympus Mons. This is kind of a tough one. But I think I can do it. You can still see, I think there was a little captured asteroid, or maybe Phobos or Deimos that flew by. There's one of Phobos or Deimos. There's the other moon, the two moons of Mars. Whoops, 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 whoops. All right, all right. This is kind of tough, but I think I can do it. Let's keep going a little faster. Ha ha ha. Okay. Looking for Argyre. No, I think it still needs to go. If we get to, yes, right? If we get to Valles Marineris, we've gone too far again. Maybe we've already gone too far. It's up in the north here. It might be a little hard for me to see because, oh man, I'm bummed that I cannot immediately find it. I found it the other day, but it is. Let me look at a map really quickly. Mars, Google Mars. I can find it on Google Mars, so I'll do that. I'll pop over Google Mars really quickly. Internet, boom. Here's Google Mars, and so this is the Valles Marineris we're just looking at, and I'm looking for this right here. It's easier when you have this because Jezero crater is this one right here. So I'm looking for, this is Hellas Basin, and then up here I'm looking for that. It's a little difficult because if you're in the visible, you know, it's not as, you know, the infrared either. Like with the elevation, it's pretty straightforward, but like we're looking for maybe these three. should allow us to find it as well. So let's do that. So we're looking over here. Oh man, I don't want to have to go back. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time trying to do this thing. But I think that it's essentially like one of these craters up in the north that has, you know, it's very pretty. Let's turn this off again. Space engine. And I'm going to reverse the flow of time here so that I can go back in time. Ah, there we are. Found it. Good, 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 good. Okay, so here are those scarps I was showing you. And this right here, I think, is Jezero crater. And so, you know, if we go and land here, this is where Perseverance is. Right here, we just land in the crater. So it's daytime, but if we let time go by, eventually it'll become nighttime. And so you can imagine Perseverance right now on Mars. Notice it as the sun sets on Mars, it becomes very blue. And this is real. If we look up sunset on Mars, you can see these beautiful pictures of Mars sunsets. This is one of my favorites. This is from the Curiosity rover here. This is a real photograph. Color's been enhanced a little bit, but blue sunsets. And that's because of the way that the dust acts differently than the dust here on Earth because of the sizes of the grains and stuff. It causes a different type of scattering. But once the sun has set, and stars come out, crank up the brightness a little bit, you can still imagine stargazing. Now, the thing is that here, we're looking at southern hemisphere stars because I can see the Magellanic Clouds here. But there's the Milky Way, exactly stretched across the sky. And look, from where Perseverance is, it can see Orion kind of lying on its back. And it can see looking up at Taurus the Bull right here. So you could imagine from where you are looking at Orion that you could be Perseverance, the little rover sitting on Mars right now, also looking up at the same group of stars. Pretty cool. So I wanted to finish there. This is a pretty straightforward month. There's some cool winter constellations that I would urge you to go look at. Please go out and look at the Milky Way. If you have questions or anything like that, I would urge you to send me those. You should follow me on Twitter or Instagram. Like ask me questions there by sending me messages on that, or just message me there. But like otherwise, I really appreciate you watching. It's always nice to have people watching, and I hope you're learning something, and I hope that this is exciting. And I'll see you next month to talk about the March constellations. March. Bye, everybody. Now I just sit here until I see that my little video here has actually streamed myself waving, because at that point I will know that I'm done, and I can actually click on stream. And if this appears on the stream at the end, then you know this is always a little bonus content for you. Classic bonus content. All right, there's the wave, and I'm ending the stream.